Hello guys, it's the Unsmooth Criminal, coming to you with part 2 of my redo of What If Deku was a monster from Evolved. Or Wraith from Evolved, to be exact. So, last part, we ended off with the practical test for from Aizawa, the quirk test, and Izuku was demonstrating his power. Aizawa did that to demonstrate to the students that not every quirk is the same, and since Izuku's quirk only looked like arms, he demonstrated that Izuku can still throw down like All Might. We skip a week, and if I remember correctly, Izuku's taking care of Eri. Yeah, Izuku's taking care of Eri, and Izuku's taking care of Eri. So Eri has been getting more control over her quirk, and Aizawa has been teaching the class life skills and ways to survive. And it's now the time for the USJ. Izuku has still been doing vigilante work because he's not legally licensed as a hero, but he is still licensed as a hero because he hacked into the system. Because he's that smart. And his vigilante name is Wraith, and his hero name is going to be Monster. Or if you guys think of a hero name that's better, let me know. This is going to be a short one because I have to do stuff in a minute. Or 2. Or 30. Anyway. So it's the USJ, and everybody walks in except Izuku, and Aizawa asks what is he doing, and Izuku says there's something bad in there. I'm going to stay at the door, and if it starts to shut, I'll hold it open, get everybody out. And Aizawa goes, okay, because Izuku has fought more villains than Aizawa has fought, but Aizawa doesn't kill them, so he keeps refighting the same villains with the same attack patterns. So Aizawa still has more fighting experience, but he fights the same villains over and over and over again. So Aizawa's like, okay, I'll get them out. And he says, everybody, including 13, out of the USJ. Me and Izuku and I are going to do a sweep of the compound. And 13, knowing who Izuku is and knows what he's capable of, goes, okay, everybody out. Once Izuku steps in and Aizawa steps in, Izuku shuts the door behind him and bends the metal. So the door is now basically sealed shut. And 13, hearing the metal bend, was like, okay, Ida, run to UA and get everybody. Ida's like, what about them? And she's like, they'll be fine. Run to UA now. And Eri starting to get worried, and her quirk slowly activates, and 13 is trying to comfort her to stop her quirk from activating. But in the USJ with Izuku's currently walking down the stairs, and the portal opens, and he transforms into Wraith. And uses his overhaul to clear out the area so there's no discrete obstructions while he's fighting. And Kurogiri walks in after everybody else, and Izuku uses abduction and pulls Kurogiri away and cuts him in half. So Kurogiri is dead on the ground, and his mist evaporates, and it shows Aizawa's old friend. And Izuku sees this and sees Aizawa's reaction. Is like, oh crap. I'm gonna get chewed out later for defiling a corpse. And Izuku at this point is just like, I don't care anymore. And Shigaraki's like, you cheated, and scratching his neck, but One for All, All for One, who is currently watching it via a villain who has a camera quirk. Not the reporter. The reporter has a picture quirk. The villain has a broadcasting quirk. And it's broadcasting straight to All for One. And All for One is watching it and saw that Kurogiri has been destroyed. And he sends in the Nomu. He sends in all the Nomu, actually. So, all of a sudden, a black portal opens up, and the 13 Nomu that were ready to be released onto the entire town after All Might died to the one were released to try to kill Izuku, and when All Might arrives, kill All Might. So the Nomu get there, and Izuku's like, I feel like I have to go full on berserk. So he activates his supernova, which makes 90% of his body ethereal except for his blades. So people are just trying to shoot at him, and the only thing that they seem to be able to hit are his blades, which seem to be stronger than the rest of his body. So he's swinging wildly and cutting villains and the Nomus apart, but most of the Nomu have regeneration, so they slowly get up after. So 30 minutes of straight on fighting, and the door finally busts open, and all they see is a massive pile of bodies and carnage, with one person still going supernova and tiring out and slowing down, and Izuku still having razor sharp senses that people came into the USJ via the front door. So he deactivates his Wraith mode and is still going supernova with his size, but he doesn't have any protection over him. So he's starting to get hit. And All Might jumps in and starts to help Izuku, and is like, really don't like him, but he's a really good teacher, and he's a really good fake hero. And All Might says fake hero with the your ideals are of a true hero, but you're not actually a hero legally. So Izuku and All Might dispatch the rest of the villains, and Izuku promptly, after dispatching the villains, passes out. And all the villains' bodies were collected and taken to the morgue to try to find what parts go to what. And they find 13 extra arms, 15 extra legs, left legs, and 30 extra right legs, 5 extra right arms, and 13 heads. And the morgue is like, what the hell happened? And when Izuku wakes up, Nezu says, okay, you cannot do any more vigilante work for 6 months, or we take you to the hero licensing test so you can still fight villains, but you can't kill them. And Izuku goes, oh, damn it. I'll take the damn test. But before he gets to the test, he has to do the heroes versus villains with All Might. And All Might says that everybody in this class has seen Izuku's power and seen how vicious he fights, and he asks who else has fought that viciously against that many villains before, and Katsuki, who's not as dumb in this one but still very arrogant, says, "No way Deku is him. There's no way." And Momo hears is him and starts putting it together and says, makes sense. And Baku goes, hell no. There's no way. And everybody says that vigilante is a monster. And Izuku goes, hey, that's very rude. I'm not a monster. And Eri, who knows Izuku's true identity, starts giggling because she's called him Papa Monster before. Well, basically Papa Monster. And he walks up to Eri and says, you want extra training? And she goes, no. And she looks terrified, absolutely terrified. And she's one of the strongest people in class. And like, what kind of training does Eri have? And he starts laughing and goes, fine. Tell them my story. And Eri starts telling them his story and how Overhaul was trying to gain Izuku's powers and used his quirk to basically kill Izuku. Then Izuku, when he was fused with Overhaul, took over because Overhaul didn't have a strong enough mindset. So everybody's like, what? And Izuku goes, I am the vigilante Wraith. And he transforms into a Wraith version and screeches. Because he still doesn't have full-on vocal cords. He just has... he just has a windpipe. So it's now the start, and Izuku says that Eri has to go up against two people, and if she loses against two people, she has extra training, but if she wins against the two people join her for training, and Eri, wanting to not have to fight Izuku constantly, is like, ooh, okay, I'll win. And Izuku looks at Todoroki and Bakugo and says, you're the two most problem children in this entire class. Why don't you fight Eri? And Eri looks at Bakugo and is like, I can easily beat him. And she looks at Todoroki and she's like, maybe not him. If he uses his fire side, I may not be able to beat him. And Bakugo's like, damn extra. And Izuku gives him the death glare, like what did you say? And Bakugo's like, and starts stuttering, and he's like, okay, Eri, you're the hero. They're the villains. They gotta protect the bomb. So the fight starts, and Eri walks into the building, and Bakugo's like, I need to just get this over with quickly so I don't have to train with him and show how weak I am against him. Because his mentality is currently shattering at the idea of Izuku being stronger than him. So he walks down the stairs and sees Eri and starts fighting Eri. But one thing that Eri has learned is how to fast forward someone's time too. So she uses her quirk to regress his age down to 4 years old. And Bakugo's like, damn, what the hell's going on? Where am I? And in a loud, squeaky voice, and Izuku's in the room laughing his ass off. And Eri walks up to him and says, "Now be a good boy and go outside and put this on," and gives him a piece of tape. And he goes, "No, you don't tell me what to do." And she goes, "Do you want to get punished? I can contact your mother." And Izuku, forgetting that he told her, or that Bakugo's scared of his mother, and Bakugo goes, "Please don't, please don't, please don't." Takes the tape and runs outside and puts it on and just sits quietly waiting for it to be over. And Izuku's laughing his ass off even harder. And All Might looks at him like, "What the hell did you teach her?" And he goes, "I just taught her combat strategies and the ways to get one up on your opponent." And All Might goes, "Right." And all the rest of the class are just looking at him like he's a monster, because they've accepted the fact that he's a Wraith, that he's Wraith, the vigilante, and that he's also their teacher. But he hasn't accepted that he's that good with his mental games and ability to disorient the opponent. So, Eri gets up to Todoroki, and Todoroki is about to fight Eri, and Eri says, "I have a deal for you. I can take that scar off of your face if you just give up." And he goes, "This scar is permanent. No healing can actually fix it." And she goes, I don't have healing. I have time reversal, and I have the control of a human body's time." And Shoto says, "What?" And he goes, "If you can't do it, I'm definitely fighting you at full strength." And she goes, "Okay." So she walks up to him, places her hand on his forehead, and removes it, and the scar's gone. And he's like, "Is it gone?" And Izuku goes, "That's no fair. You made a deal with the enemy." And she goes, "You never said how I'd have to beat them." So she walks up to the and touches the bomb, and All Might says, "Hero teams win," or "Hero team wins." And he's just like, "Oh, come on!" But he's still laughing his butt off because of what she did to Bakugo. So she walks out to Bakugo and flicks him in the forehead, and he grows to full size. And he's like, "What the hell was that?" All of a sudden, I felt like a child again. And she's like, "'Cause you were." And he's like, "What?" And he's starting to yell, and Izuku shows up and like, "God dang it, Angry Pomeranian, I banked on you to win." And Eri pouts and goes, "What? You're wanting me to lose?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have a lot more to teach you, and I want to teach you 3 times faster." Just, "Oh God, I'm glad I won then." And he goes, "I wouldn't have pushed you." "No, I would have. I would have pushed you that hard." And she goes, "Exactly. I'm glad I won now." And now Bakugo and Todoroki are both getting scared because they don't know how strong or how hard he's pushing Eri. Skip to the end of the day after the rest of it, and he goes, "Everybody, 5 laps around the school now." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm showing you all what I make Eri do." And Eri bolts off, and she's going full speed the entire time. And everybody's like, else is like, "Do we get deducted points if we don't do this?" And he goes, "Just for today. Except for Bakugo and Todoroki, I'll deduct points if they don't do this every day like Eri does." And Bakugo and Todoroki pale at this, and everybody's like, "Yes, sir!" And they start running, and 30 minutes later, Eri is sitting on the ground, stretching and getting ready for the rest of the workout. And Izuku goes, 30 minutes of stretching, go. And they all start stretching. And then Eri, in the middle of their 30 minutes, because it took them an hour to run and all the way around the school 5 times. Eri, took her 45 minutes, so while they're still stretching and 15 minutes left of their stretching, Eri starts doing push-ups. And she gets all the way up to 1,000 push-ups, then 1,000 sit-ups, then 1,000 squats, and she starts doing the Asta workout. And everybody's like, "The hell are you doing?" And Izuku's like, "Oh, what do you mean? This is what she does every day." And, and she gets done with the 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 squats, 1,000 sit-ups, and 1,000 pull-ups. And she's like, "How many more sets do I have?" And he goes, "Since I'm doing it 3 times more, 5 times as many sets as normal." And she goes, "Oh." And everybody gets done with their one set and is completely and utterly demolished. And they go, "Oh, I can't do this anymore." And Izuku goes, "Eri, keep going, I'll talk to them." And Izuku explains how he's been training Eri since she was little to potentially get a quirk that could reverse what she has done with her body and other people's bodies, and maybe even progress their ages accidentally. And he explains how dangerous Eri's quirk is, and basically gives the 13 speech that was supposed to happen at the USJ. And he even waves in 13, and 13 comes in and says, "You wanted an example?" And Izuku pulls out a small bird that is at the end of its life, and he says, "This bird is at the end of its life, and 13 can easily kill it." And Eri, who's not giggling, she's starting to cry for sadness. She's laughing that this was shown to her too. So she's laughing, everybody else is paling at this, and she's sad that he's using birds and killing them off. And Izuku sees this and goes, "Don't worry, it's at the end of its life already." And he pulls up the wing, and the bird's wing is slowly molting to the last feathers it will ever get. And everybody sees this, and he explains the biology of how birds molt and all that. And then he says, 13, do it. And 13 activates her quirk, and the bird disappears into a black hole. And 13 looks down, and she's like, "I don't like taking life, no matter what it is, with my quirk." And Izuku goes, "I have learned to deal with it, because my quirk is very deadly. I was a wraith ever since I was little. I have been my size," and he's currently 6'6" because of Overhaul. "I've been my size since I was 7. If I remember correctly, he was 7. Or since the age I made him when Overhaul took him." And everybody was like, "Okay." And then he pulls out Overhaul and says, "This is Overhaul, the leader of the Chisaikai." And they all go, "What?" And so he uses Overhaul's quirk to deconstruct Overhaul and then put him back together as a little human form. And Overhaul is currently yelling at Izuku to stop turning him into a stupid bird and putting him in his back pocket. And Deku goes, no. Changes him back into a bird and puts him in his back pocket. And everybody looks at him like he's crazy. And Izuku says Overhaul's quirk that he used on other people to heal them and to hurt them is he has to kill them and then resurrect them. He puts them back together better or worse than he wants them. Better or worse than they were when he takes them apart. And he explains how All Might, who uses air pressure, has only a strength quirk, and how All Might's quirk can easily kill if he uses too much strength in his legs. And then Bakugo raises his hand, asking, "What do you mean All Might's quirk is only strength? Isn't it air pressure too?" And Izuku goes, "No. All Might's quirk is only strength." his quirk is an enhancement to his strength. That's it. And Izuku looks over in one direction and he sees All Might, and All Might's hesitantly nodding his head, and Izuku says, mouths thank you. And he says All Might's quirk was not originally his. And All Might pales at this and is like, that's not what I thought he would say. And he says there's quirks like the quirk of the number one Japanese villain. And it's the quirk of the number one Japanese villain. One for all, or all for one. He can take people's quirks, and All Might has a quirk that can pass quirks down. And they're like, wait, what? And Izuku says All Might's quirk is not actually his. It was, I think he said he was the 7th user of it. And everybody's like, oh, he's actually telling the truth. And Aries is still doing the reps, and she's currently on her 5th rep. She has 10 more to go. And she yells, a third of the way done. And he goes, good job. Keep going. You're almost done. She goes, no, I'm not. I'm a third of the way done. And she goes, yeah, you're almost done compared to where you were when I told you to start. She goes, damn it, I hate your logic. And he goes, no, you love my logic, because my logic is the glass half full instead of the glass half empty. She goes, yeah. So an hour passes, and Eri finally finishes her workout, and she gets to the dorms where everybody's staying, because after the USJ, the dorms were installed, if I didn't install them last episode. So everybody moved into the dorms, including the teachers. And Izuku and Eri are living in the same dorm. If I remember correctly, I put Eri as the same age as Izuku. Maybe not. Well, they're the same age. Everybody's the same age. 15, 16, same age. And Izuku is basically sleeping and cuddling with Eri, because it's the thing you do to the ones you love when you care for them. And so, what Izuku doesn't know is Eri has formed a bond / crush on Izuku, and when she says the words daddy, she does not mean like her actual father. And Mina and Mineta have picked up on this, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. And they're wondering if Izuku knows about this, and from the way he acts, he probably doesn't. So they go to everybody in class and say that the way Eri says daddy is not like he's her father. And everybody starts paying attention to Eri and sees that they're correct, and that Izuku's blind as a bat when it comes to emotions. And one day, the entire school is put on lockdown, and Izuku's currently outside of school, wondering what's going on, because the entire UA barrier was put up, and Izuku, going to one edge of the area, transforms into Wraith and walks over the wall, which the wall is currently 20 feet tall. And he then transforms back into his human form and walks over to the front gate and sees that reporters have gotten in. And since he does have a good sense of smell, he smells that a familiar scent is nearby. And he follows the scent and finds Shigaraki and the new Kurogiri in the records room. And so he transforms two of his arms into blades and then cuts Shigaraki's hands off and Kurogiri's head off. And sees that it transforms into another corpse. That has had its eyes shut and sewed shut. And Izuku's like, this is getting weird. Who keeps making this purple mist bastard? And Shigaraki's currently yelling because his hands are missing, and Izuku puts a scythe to Shigaraki's neck, saying, I know what your quirk was, and now you don't have a quirk. You come with me silently, or you're going to feel a lot more pain than just losing your hands. Damn crusty handyman. And Shigaraki, hearing that, is like, what the hell? You just cut off my hands and now you're calling me crusty handyman? He goes, yeah, you're covered in hands and you look crusty. Shigar's like, rude? He goes, I don't care. You attacked my students and my family, and now you pay the price. And Shigaraki's like, fine. And he gets pulled into the UA anti-quirk room, or whatever you want to call it, and he gets interrogated by Aizawa, Izuku, and Aizawa, All Might, Izuku, and Midnight. And he reveals where the base is and who his master is, and after hours of interrogation and threats from Izuku, because Izuku still doesn't give two flying craps about the rules of heroes and thinks that heroes shouldn't be governed, and heroes should be not seeking fame and actually do what they have to get true justice done and to stop villains from re-emerging. He has the Batman mindset without the promise to never kill. So he has a backup strategy to every major villain, every major hero. And then Endeavor walks in saying he demands to see the person who attacked his son, and Izuku goes, you should look in the mirror then. And Endeavor goes, what did you say to me, boy? And Izuku goes, careful, you're losing your temper. You don't want to do to your wife what you did to your son. Or you don't want to do to me what you did to your wife. And Endeavor, who is trying to hide what he did to his wife because he's still mean Endeavor, is like, shut up, you know nothing. And Izuku goes, oh, I know a lot. Thanks to Shoto, I know everything. And Endeavor goes, what? And Izuku waves his hand, and two cops that were in the building see this and is like, okay, it's time to take Endeavor, and we will get a confession from his son and hopefully him of his crimes against people. And 30 minutes later, they have Endeavor with quirk canceling collars and bracelets on all over his body, so he can't use his quirk or break one of them and immediately get out. And Izuku walks in saying, we have a confession from your son. And Izuku, using his mimic of the vocal cords, because he can destroy them and replace them so they sound like people, he makes up false lies about or false accusations in Shoto's voice of Endeavor killing, which in this universe he has killed, and he has not told anybody about him killing. Not even Shoto, and he's like, what? That was supposed to be a secret. And he goes, you just confessed. And the cops are like, you have the right to remain silent. Anything can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't provide, one will be provided for you. And they give him his Miranda rights. And Izuku walks out, and Shoto goes, you know that wasn't my voice. And he goes, yeah, he doesn't though. And Shoto goes, how did you know he killed? And he goes, I'm the vigilante Wraith. I keep track of everybody who's killed. That's apparently a true hero. And he puts air quotes. And he says, only Aizawa is the truest hero we have that has killed. And Shoto hears this and is like, oh. And Izuku says, now that your father's gone, you need to talk to your mother. And Shoto pales at this, going, you don't have a scar anymore. Go. And then Shoto goes, true. So later that day, Shoto arrives at the mental institution where his mother is and asks to see Rei Todoroki, and the doctors take him to Rei Todoroki's room and says, do you need anything else? And he goes, no, I'm here to talk to my mother and see if she's ready to come out. And they go, we have strict orders by the number 2 hero to not let anything happen to her and keep her here forever. And he goes, you mean the murderer? And they go, what? And Shoto goes, yeah. He turns on the TV that's currently turned off, and he says, switch channels until you find the news. And they get to the news, and a few seconds later it says, breaking news. Number 2 hero has been arrested for the murder of multiple innocent people. And the doctor pales and goes, oh, never mind. You can talk to her for how long you want, and if she's willing to, she can leave and join society again. And he goes, it's all up to her. And Todoroki talks with his mother. An hour later, Todoroki leaves and is crying and goes home to his brothers and sisters and says that mom has chosen to stay in that place until we move to a new home, because she doesn't like this one anymore. And they're like, okay, we will do that tomorrow. So a few weeks pass, and everything's finally calmed down. Todoroki has his mother back. Uraka's parents have visited her because they wanted to know if she was okay, and Eri has more control and more muscle than ever before. And Izuku has still been doing his vigilante work, and Nezu has told him he needs to stop or he's going to be caught one day. And Izuku goes, yeah, I haven't been caught yet, but I will not be caught anytime soon. And Nezu goes, okay, fine, and just leaves it at that. A week goes by and nothing happens, and a month goes by and it's the sports festival. It's the sports festival, and the proctor of the final round, the person who oversees the final round, Midnight oversaw the first round and second round, the obstacle course and the other rounds, and he was the proctor of the final round and said the skill level between one student in particular and the rest has changed dramatically, and the skill level of 2 more students have changed dramatically than the rest. But since rest of the students have been popping in and out of my training, and he explains his training, and all the heroes pale at this, and he goes, since they have been popping in and out of my training, they have improved a lot. But I'm still requiring the 3 students, and he names the students, to wear weights to dumb down their power, because they are still too powerful for normal students to handle. And all the heroes start complaining, like, what the heck? And Izuku pulls a weight off one of his arms that are in the back and says, this is the weight that Eri, and he says Eri's last name, Eri Yakuza, will be wearing. And he drops it on the ground. And it leaves a crater! Rock Lee style training, bruh. And he takes one that Bakugo Katsuki is going to be wearing. He drops it and it leaves a hole. Then he takes the one that, and he says that Todoroki is doing the same exact training as Bakugo, but he's trying twice as hard. And then he pulls Todoroki's weight and drops it, and it makes a bigger hole than Bakugo's. And Bakugo looks at the hole and he goes, bruh. And so Eri walks out, and she has the weights on, and she's slowed way down with the weights. And then Todoroki and Bakugo walk out and say, we are the students that have the weights, and we shall use them to give them a fair chance of fighting. And so it's Aries versus Shinso's turn. And Shinso, seeing the weights, is like, I just need to give up. And Shinso raises his hand to give up, and Izuku saying, you're not going to become a hero if you give up. There's no way you can actually be a hero if you give up. And Shinso, hearing this, is like, what do you suggest then? And Izuku says, why don't you join my class training, and I will teach you martial arts and how to become stronger. And he says, I'll join. And then Izuku says, great, now you gotta fight Eri, so I know your level. And everybody's hearing these conversations being like, he's willing to teach people with villainous quirks? And since Izuku has such good hearing and senses, he goes, what you guys don't know is I'm also known as the Vigilante Wraith. And he says this out loud, and everybody's like, wait, what? And he goes, I don't care for the spotlight. That's why I hid my identity. I don't care for what I've done in my past. I've stopped multiple mobs. I've stopped multiple crime bosses. I've stopped so many villains that not even Eraserhead could compare to the number of villains I've stopped. Most of them were about to murder somebody, too. It's either I murder them first, and he says this without flinching, or they murder somebody else. Would I protect a life, or would I risk my life? I'd protect both. And he says that I would protect both with a nasty look in his eye. And Stain, who is currently in the crowd hiding as a civilian, is wondering who this kid is, and he leaves the crowd and changes into his vigilante costume and basically arrives and says, I would like to challenge the Wraith to a fight. And Izuku, knowing that Stain was a civilian in the crowd, and goes, about time you damn showed yourself. And Stain goes, what do you mean? And Izuku goes, I know you're sitting in this row and this seat. And the heroes look at each other being like, the hero killer was sitting in our stadium? And he goes, you must be really good then. And he goes, no, I'm absolute crap at sensing. If I didn't have my heightened senses, I wouldn't be able to sense you at all. He goes, oh, okay. So I'm going to leave it off there. Eri and Shinso's match. Eri obviously won. Shinso is signed up for Izuku's boot camp. Emphasis on boot camp. And he is now in for hell. But Eri is walking out of the stadium when Stain was walking in and saw Stain and was like, good luck, and said this and put Stain, or regressed Stain into his prime, because Stain was injured and he was hurting, and he still wants to test himself against strong, he calls villains or fake heroes, and before the match starts, Izuku changes into Wraith form and everybody freaks out because he is actually Wraith. And then he starts fighting Stain. We'll leave it off there at this slight cliffhanger, and it'll be probably another week before I put another one of these out. And I may not be able to get another one may not be able to continue my What If schedule because life is throwing me a bone, and hopefully I get the job I'm applying for, even though I don't like working. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you liked, subscribe. If you like this video specifically, like it. I don't really care if you like it or not. Just if you like my content, subscribe. We have fun here. No. Hopefully you guys have fun. I try to make it funny. And I know I'm not funny, so see you guys next time.